Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miosha. And today we are reviewing Love is Blind season 6. They dropped 6 episodes, but we're not going to be able to do all those in one setting.
Listen,
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 1 through like 4.5. We're gonna get to the end of the meetups, and then we'll do another video. Probably will have that out by Tuesday,
hmm
with the honeymoon. All right. So let's go ahead and get through the first few episodes, and then we'll see y'all on the tail end. Um, oh, but before we do that, please make sure you subscribe to the channel,
hmm
give this video a like, and meet us in the comments because we have some things to talk about.
Yeah. And are y'all excited? I feel like after Married at First Sight, we need something. We need something more.
Yeah. Are you excited? I kind of am.
I am. I will say some of the people I saw from the previews or the initial cast, I saw like, oh, they didn't get much screen time. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, well, we just have to work with what we have.
Okay. It is what it is. But okay. So episode 1, the first
hmm
person I have something on is Trevor, who is 30
hmm
years old. Um,
With a mullet.
with a mullet. I don't know if you watch this therapist. I think her name is Steph Anya on YouTube.
Mm-mm.
But I remember last season she said something like, I always pay attention to what people say when they first come up on the screen because that is either how people perceive them because that's how they are, or that's how they
hmm
perceive themselves. And so I was really trying to pay attention to that this this time. But Trevor is 30. I put that I think he's very into his muscles and his mullet. Like he seems
hmm
like he'll say stuff. Yeah, thank you. That blue looks good on him though, actually, in that picture. It's kind of popping.
It definitely is popping, especially against the khaki and the black.
Mhm. It is. So yeah, I think he believes other people are into those two things. And that's why he's so quick to talk about his mullet and his muscles.
That, and I think he has this thing going on where he thinks other people are judging him in that he's, all buff and really into fitness, and that's all that there is to him. And
Mhm.
so he seems to be going through this process to try to find something more, something deeper, and not wanting to be judged or associated with, I guess, the things that come with being a part of the fitness space, or I
Right.
don't know.
But if he would have never said those things, I would not have thought them about him. Like I can see he has muscles, but there are a lot of people who have muscles. They like the gym. I wouldn't necessarily go into thinking negative things about him because he likes to lift weights.
I think what it is that he's a bigger guy
Hmm.
too, and it seems that he was trying to communicate like I'm really a softie at heart. I'm very in tune with my emotions, and maybe those aren't things that you associate with the gym rats.
Yeah, we'll see. We
Well, also it's not like he's a personal trainer either. He's into project management, I see.
hmm Maybe he
So
does it on the side because what what would he be training for to have those many
he
muscles?
just want to be buff for life.
Okay, maybe child. But I also wrote down that he said he's a good person, and that made me question whether or not he is. So I was looking at him kind of sideways during this episode just to see like,
Okay.
okay, what's gonna pop out? Why is he saying I'm a good person right off the bat? It was giving
hmm
me Alyssa from Married at First Sight vibes, and so I'm just a little bit hesitant when it comes to people starting out with that.
Okay. So the next person I have something on is Jessica. And
Okay.
she reveals that she's a single mom of a daughter who's 10. So
Mhm.
we find this out obviously before the guys do. And I wanted to get your thoughts on someone signing up for this process and they have a child, specifically a child who's coming up on like a big
Like
point of development, preteen age. I feel like this might be a first for Love Is On, but I haven't watched all the seasons. Have other people had kids?
No, not that I remember. You guys can correct us, but I think this
Okay.
is the first time, which is probably why they made a point of showing it. I hate that you asked me that first because I was going to ask you as well,
Oh.
but it's okay. You win. Um, but I think it's okay.
Hmm.
However, I was really looking to see how and when she was going to deliver that news and how it would affect whoever she was making a connection with. If I had my preference, I would just make this a show where it's all singles coming who maybe have not had children, maybe haven't been divorced, but that's just me.
Mm.
I understand some of them were divorced very young, so they don't want to take them out of the running because of that. But if I
Mhm.
had my preference, I would love it to just be people who are looking for marriage the first time and people who don't have children. Because I don't want to get too much into it, but I
Yeah.
anticipated that when Jessica reveals this to somebody, that would be a major point in them either going home with her or not. And so I think it adds a complexity that I could have done without, but I was still entertained.
Yeah, I was shocked that she would come on a show and have a 10-year-old daughter just because all of what goes with, having a child and entering into a new relationship.
Mhm,
So I wrote down that I was shocked, and then she also said something about how the thought of marriage in 4 weeks doesn't intimidate her.
mhm.
And for me, I was just thinking, I would be very intimidated by the idea, not just because of the process, but more so because you have a child. So that was surprising to me that she would say that.
And then this isn't a show like, say, Married at First Sight, where it's on Lifetime. They have their audience, but their audience is their audience. Like a lot of people aren't looking for Married at First Sight if they haven't watched it previously, right?
Mhm.
Love is Blind is on Netflix. So whether you're into dating shows or not, you will probably come across it. You will probably watch it at some point or know of the characters at some point. So, with her being 10 and her friends probably having access to these things, I just wonder the effect that that might have, even if her daughter doesn't watch the show, right? Her
Yeah.
friends might be like, oh, I know your mom from such and such and such and such.
Yeah, and she gave her name. I
Mhm.
was also surprised by that.
Ah, the
So yeah,
daughter.
that the whole that whole segment with Jessica for me was surprising.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on individuals? Because I go next into the dates.
As an individual, I don't think so. I think we can go right into the dates. Yeah. The other stuff I wrote about them, I could include
With
on
the
the dates. Yeah.
okay, fair. So I have
Yeah.
Trevor and Chelsea first. If you want to pull up, we saw Trevor already with
Oh,
the
yeah.
muscles and mullet.
Oh
Not you
god.
forgetting.
I know, right? We're terrible. You said Trevor and Chelsea?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So Chelsea, I liked her vibe from the
Okay.
beginning. I know they share each other's like their dogs have the other person's name, so he has a dog named Chelsea. And she
I
says,
know he said that, but I didn't know if I believe that. I thought she was
right.
joking,
I
which
thought so too. But then when he reported it to the men, I'm like, maybe he took it seriously as well. 'Cause I've
hmm.
never met a dog named Trevor. I've never met a dog named Chelsea either, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought she was joking. I thought she was saying that because that I mean, obviously he can't change the name of his dog, but that would be kind of an odd thing to say to someone like, "Oh, you share the same name as my dog in your first meeting." So I thought she said it just as a, "Well, you share my dog's name too."
To be snarky, yeah. Okay. So this was one of the things that because I was skeptical of him in the first episode, I
Mhm.
wrote down when she said, "Tell me 5 things that make you smile." It felt like some of his answers were prepackaged, like him saying he loves romantic movies
Oh,
and then
yeah, the Notebook and yeah.
and Walk to Remember. I feel like those are very if you ask anybody what their favorite romance novel or romance movie was, I feel like if you are a white person, you probably say The Notebook. If you're a black person, you probably say Love and Basketball. And so, like,
Mhm.
anybody who gives those answers, I'm like, is that really your favorite movie, or are you giving me answers that you know every woman might want to hear? So I wasn't sure about
Mm.
that. And then he talked about there was something else he said that
Mm.
I just felt was giving very cliche. And so it reminded me of in the beginning where he's like, oh, people don't take me seriously. They don't see me as a softie. Like maybe he's trying to lean into being that softie
Mhm.
and leaning into it a little too hard. So much so that it was slightly inauthentic in the beginning for me.
Okay, so I thought the whole Notebook and A Walk to Remember thing was cheesy,
Okay.
but beyond that, I didn't read too much into it and think that he was being inauthentic.
Okay.
I thought that I'm like, okay, he's in tune with his emotions. This is how he is. I didn't read too much into it.
The Notebook is just such a cliche answer. It felt like
Mm,
he he planned on talking about him liking romance movies, and then when she
mm,
maybe surprised him with the question of, well, which ones? The Notebook
mm.
was the most obvious choice, but that's just me. I'll move
Okay.
on from it. But again, that was just at the beginning. Um,
Mhm.
Chelsea, I thought was a good vibe. She was talking about how she had been to Home Depot looking for a man.
She
So
clearly really wants to be married.
again, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down that she laughs a lot. Um, yeah, and for her, I don't not that she was fake, but I don't know if she actually thought all those things were funny. Like, the way she would throw her head back, I don't know, and maybe that was it worked. It seemed to make a lot of people feel very comfortable with her and like she's down to earth, so I wrote that I don't know if this was on purpose or how she is, but I think it worked in her favor to
Mhm,
disarm people, make them feel very comfortable with her, and
absolutely.
so, yeah.
Yeah. I can see how with there being a wall there, that would be a thing that attracts someone to you. Like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
you're enjoying yourself no matter what's happening. All
Yeah.
right. So
And I
go
was
ahead.
gonna ask you, in that, is this a session where she talks about being divorced or no?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay.
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 So next I have Jimmy and Jessica. What were your first impressions of Jimmy? Because we've talked about Jessica.
Yeah. Jimmy, for me, reminds me physically of Gary Owens. For
Gary,
some
the
reason,
comedian?
mhm, I don't know why. When I see him, appearance wise, it gives me Gary Owens.
Really? I don't
Yeah.
see it
You don't see it?
at
Okay.
all. But I maybe a Gary Owens and Matthew Mc actually no. Um,
Girl, no, no, you ain't doing the Matthew
there's
McConaughey.
something about his face that gives me not Gary Owens, and I'm trying to think about who it's close to. Not Matthew McConaughey because I know people have crushes on him.
They gonna eat you up, girl.
I didn't say that. Okay, I thought it was really cool that he wants to visit the sports stadiums. I'm like, oh, that's a really fun fact. If someone said that to
Mhm.
me, I would be interested in that. Like, oh, okay, it gives us something that maybe we could do together. So,
Yeah. And he said he likes to travel a lot.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I thought he was a pretty like cool guy. I could definitely see multiple people liking him from what he presented initially, especially.
Upon initial inspection, yes. I think he was making people feel very comfortable. He wasn't too much, but wasn't
Yeah,
too little either. I think he
yeah,
was right down the middle in episode 1.
exactly. So there was something that he said while he and Jessica were talking that I thought was a really nice way of stating where he stood, but also inviting her to like him maybe a little bit more. So he said, by the way, I feel really good about you. And he just said it kind of casually, which if I were someone talking to another person on the opposite side of a wall, that would make
Mhm.
me feel like, oh, one, I'm feeling a little more confident because this is our first conversation and you feel good about me, but
Mhm.
also it maybe shows his willingness to fall for somebody. I would see it as very warm and inviting. So I liked that.
I did appreciate that. It almost feel like he regressed a little bit from the initial pod sessions.
Mm,
Like, he seemed to be a bit more open, and as the
initially.
process went on, I guess maybe it really started to hit him. He
Yes,
felt more closed off as time progressed.
I agree. I agree.
So,
He was
that's
definitely holding his cards close to his chest throughout the rest of the episodes.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Matthew? Now, this is one person who I wish I could put on the thumbnail, but because I feel like he went on this show just for attention, I would not do.
Mm.
I don't care how many clicks it would get us. I just cannot do this. Because the first thing that when someone asked him, what are you here for? He goes, well, I'm not doing this to become a C-list celebrity. I'm like, that's exactly based on what that therapist said on her channel. That's exactly what he's here for because he knows that the way he's approached this whole process could get him like get buzz about him.
That, and he talks about emotions showing weakness and all this stuff,
Why are you doing
and you're on a show to find love. Did you really think you were gonna show up here and not have to talk about your feelings?
or
Very odd.
that you could quiz people and they wouldn't ask you questions back. What is up with that? First of all, this show has been around enough seasons that you should know some of what it's about, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And so you showing up talking about, oh, well, I don't know what to expect and I don't really excel at talking about relationships, then why are you on a relationship show? This is literally so that you could enter into a relationship. So if you didn't think talking about emotions would be necessary, why did you show up?
It's giving stunts. Especially when he was walking off and he's like, "Oh, I bought the questions. I didn't think I'd have to answer any." What?
And the women were being very nice playing along, like, how I have 1 through 15, you pick a number. And then that one lady picked four, and he's like, well, several other people have chosen that, so maybe let's get creative. He went on to be the most obnoxious character, and he really tried it, but I don't think he succeeded. Like,
I Another thing why I think it's giving sense is even his energy in the guy lounge, the
mhm,
men's lounge was very
mhm.
off-putting. Just not that I expected him to be friends with any of them, and I definitely think you shouldn't go run and tell all of your business from your initial dates. That makes sense. But even the way he was looking at them, the way he was holding his cup, I'm like,
Mhm.
"Why are you here?" It was
Yeah.
odd.
And
Mm.
then I think he said something about, well, Clark Kent or Superman had a cold personality too. Is this a game to you? Like, is this is this a what do they call those comic book? Is this a comic book to you?
I
Like,
It's giving stunt.
yeah.
Him and another person I'm not gonna mention yet, but yeah.
Well, I want to know
Mhm.
who.
Mhm. I'll hold it. Mhm.
Okay, so then he has this conversation with AD.
AD. Yep, let me pull
Yes.
her up.
Please do. It's 32. And I love this picture. It's giving confidence. I love the blue dress.
Mhm.
So,
Giving some hip action.
okay. So he has this conversation with her, and I felt like she came in and took control so that he could. I'm sure she had been hearing about him.
Mm.
And so she came in, it seemed like, okay, you're not about to do that to me. And so
Mhm.
his interactions with her made him seem more human. Yeah,
Mm.
to me in the first episode, his interactions with her made him seem more human. Like he took his jacket off. He talked about um, therapy on their first date,
What did
and
he say? "Oh, because everyone else is going," or something like that.
yeah, and so I loved her a lot.
Mhm.
I think she calmed him. It seemed, but I put down I like her for him, but I don't know that I like him for her. Like it seems, can you imagine if she took him out with her friends and she had to deal with the tension of him not knowing how to make
Mhm.
first impressions, and or take him around her family and have to be worried about, oh, is he gonna blend in well?
Mhm.
Personality gonna clash with everybody because it seems to be clashing with everybody here. I I thought it would be too much to manage in the real world. So I was
Mhm.
hoping like nothing would come out of their interactions.
It felt as though she was having to coddle him.
Yeah,
Even when she went back to the ladies' lounge, she was like, "Oh," it almost like would be like he would be a passion project. Like, "Oh,
exactly.
well, I was able to get him to open up," and everyone was like, "What? You got him to talk?" Everyone's so shocked and surprised. I
Exactly.
don't I like her vibe. She's bubbly, she's fun. She
Mhm.
seems to have a really nice personality. Uh, but because I didn't see enough of his interactions with the other women other than just walking out and it being weird, I
Mhm.
don't know with him. Why her?
Why did it click? And so
Why did it click? Yeah.
AD was the one who said, if I see a red flag, I just paint my nails to match it. I thought that was hilarious. And then we see her go into a meeting with, or a date with
Mhm.
Clay. What did you think about
Oh.
their first interactions?
My thoughts matched hers. It gave ladies man, a Mr.
Mhm.
Smooth, suave.
Mhm.
We later find out a bit more about why he kind of puts on
Yeah.
this I don't want to say act because I do think that it is a part of him,
Mhm.
but he gives more about why he's that way.
Yes.
I knew she would be swooning for him.
Really?
Mhm.
I could see it. He's
I
charismatic.
He's very charismatic, was making her laugh and smile, and she wasn't having to do as much of the carrying of the conversation
Yes.
like she did with Matthew. Uh, so yeah, that was my initial thoughts. I'm like, oh, Mr. Smooth Suave. Even she said, oh, he sounds like someone I would go for.
And I love that she was very perceptive though. And I
Mhm.
also love about it, yeah, Clay. Does he not have a shirt on underneath that suit jacket?
He does.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
It's
I'm not
just,
honest.
it's a lighter color than the suit. It's like a taupe.
Oh, okay. I see it now. I see it
Yeah.
now. Okay. I'm like, way to make a statement. But
Yeah.
I loved how she speaks her mind, you know? So
Mhm.
when he said, oh, I would love to have a cat because they don't need that much attention, she's like, oh, hold on, because I like affection, I like attention. So I don't love
Mm.
that you're saying you want a pet just so you don't show them attention, because that would be an issue for me. So I love how perceptive I think she is of, oh, he's a ladies' man, of, okay, well, this is not going to work out for me. I enjoy
Mhm.
her vibe. She's not the first person on this show whose vibe I've enjoyed. I just wonder if she will continue to articulate what she's feeling and thinking. And I hope she makes the right choices.
Something else I also wrote with Clay, and I think this is just my own personal opinion. Um, I think he's kind of corny to me. Like he has this smooth, suave side, uh, but it also gives kind of corny to me.
Both of
Um,
them, like
yeah.
AD all day.
What he's like, and they call me Old Clay.
Okay. They were
It,
both corny. If they were to work out, I think they would be fun to each other.
mm-hmm,
I don't know about the people around them, but it was a fun interaction to watch, though, I will say. I enjoyed seeing them on my TV.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So then we go into Amy and Johnny, which I don't have too much on their pod interactions, but he loved family, she loved family. They talked
mm-hmm,
about her praying for a little brother, and she calls him her wish upon a star. So
mm-hmm.
it seemed like they had good chemistry, but we didn't see too much of them in the pods.
Yeah, I didn't have too much of them other than she talked about her childhood, how a bit of that was rough, and I think they're going to be the cute couple.
Yeah, but they're not. They're definitely not the standout couple of this
Mm-mm.
season. They're
Which
very
is kind of nice to have one that could work out and it's no drama.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, but that was all I have on them. Yeah.
Okay. And then we move on. The next people I have is like Jessica and Jimmy. They talked about, okay, sorry, because I wrote this in my notes. I feel like as a society we might need to put the lip filler down just a little bit. Like it's not looking natural on all.
Okay. I had to think back to what she looked like, and this is what Samara is referring
That
to.
dress looks good, but
Oh yeah, she's
a
pretty beautiful,
beautiful
nice
girl.
body. Yeah.
It's just, Love is Blind, they be up on your face like this. And so all I
Yeah.
do is lip filler, especially on the top lip. It doesn't work for me for everybody, but again, she's a beautiful girl. I'm not knocking her
Mhm.
looks. I just think as a society we might need to reconsider um lip filler. But yeah, so they talked about
And let's show Jimmy one more time.
oh, I don't think we showed him in the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, here he goes.
Okay. Now they definitely gonna roast me and be like, girl, Matthew McConaughey, what were you seeing? Okay. So in this episode, I said I thought her timing was good. So this
Mm.
was the episode, I believe, where she tells him about
Mhm. The
the
daughter.
daughter. So it
So
seemed like
you're saying you think the timing was good.
it was on her third date with him. So I
Mm.
appreciated that. I definitely would not have brought it up on the first date because at that
Okay.
point, you don't even know who you're fully vibing with. And then the second date, I would say maybe towards the end of the second date, she could have dropped it. But I think the third date was a nice, safe choice. Like, okay, I know who I'm interested in seriously at this point. I know who I would want to trust with this information. And so, from her perspective, if she was prepared to share that information with him, then I think that was fine.
Hmm.
You don't agree?
Y- Yeah, I don't know if there's a right answer on this. I think because his follow-up was, "Why didn't you tell me this
Sooner.
sooner?" Which I think for someone who doesn't have kids is a fair reaction.
Mhm, mhm.
So, I don't know, part of me thinks maybe not date number 1, but I think he said something to the effect of, "Oh, well, you could have asked like, oh, well, how do you feel about children?" and like open up. I don't know. I get her whole thing of, "Oh, I don't want people to judge me because I'm a mom." I get you don't want that to be your whole personality. I get it. But it is a big deal, and I think for him, he really started to feel her.
Yes. I think this took their relationship from playful to this whole day, I think sobered Jimmy up. Before he was almost like a Clay like person. I think I wrote down, I'm not surprised he and Clay were gelling because they
Mhm.
gave me similar personalities. But I think this moment, followed by his date with Chelsea, which we'll talk about, I think that whole day just sobered him up. Like, oh, this is real life. And now the person
Mhm.
that I'm feeling has a child. And am I ready for the reality of that?
Yes, and yeah, so I don't know. And he's 27, I
Yeah,
believe.
which is it's still
And so he's young.
young.
And so I think that also adds an element too of, okay, I'd be jumping in as a full-time dad. When he went back to the men's lounge, he was saying, would she want me to act as a dad or not?
Mhm.
You're coming in at a sensitive time. It is different coming into a child's life when they're 10 versus 3.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I
And
I don't know. Part of me doesn't wanna discriminate and wanna make people who have children feel like, "Oh, you have to put it on Front Street," because I definitely understand you not telling that to every single person, um, while at the same time, you can't feel away if they decide like, "Oh, I don't wanna move forward because you have a child."
absolutely. I put down that I wonder if that'll push him closer to Chelsea because he seemed to have a connection with both of them. But then in the conversation with Chelsea,
Well,
when,
he says in that conversation though, just so we don't miss it, he
uh,
said that he didn't mind. He said it wasn't a deal breaker for him. That's what he said at that moment.
Okay,
So
yes, thank you. It was a deal breaker. In the conversation with Chelsea, he talked about how he was so proud that he went to college, and she said that she did trade school. So I was wondering how this would go because with him having family members who didn't go to college, I'm like, oh, he could be very accepting of her going
Mhm.
to trade school, but also as someone who fought really hard to go to college and get through college, I wondered if he would have wanted the same for his person. So he seemed very accepting of it. And
Mhm.
so, okay, it could have gone either way, but I'm glad that
Yeah. Like, do they align in terms of maybe values in terms of higher education and career
exactly.
paths? Yeah.
'Cause that's important for some people.
Oh, it is, especially I think when it comes to the conversation around children, which I I never heard if Chelsea wanted kids.
I never heard that either, but we haven't heard it from a lot of people, so I
A
didn't
lot
want
of people at this point. Okay.
uh,
Um, and then later, unless you wanted to add something else,
about her divorce conversation.
yeah. So
Okay, go
she
ahead.
initiates the divorce conversation, but something that he says where I wrote down, oh, Jessica's going to be a no for him at this point was when he says, oh, I've had much worse news dropped on me today.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of gave it up.
I wrote, it's a no go.
Ain't no
It's a
way.
no go. Mm-mm. And he obviously was open to the fact that she had been divorced. She's married young, married at 18, was married for 5 years. She's 30.
Yeah, so
And so she's been divorced for 5 years
it
at
was like
this point.
Johnny. Was that her name, Johnny, from last season of Love Is Blind?
Yeah. And actually, let me take my math is wrong. 18 to 25 is not 5 years.
Oh, I thought you said she had been divorced 5 years.
Yeah. I said that, but in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, she got married at 18, but 18 to
Yeah,
25 is
she
not five.
she didn't
Yeah.
get married. She didn't get married at 18. She said she
Yeah.
was married 5 years. At least that's what
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
I mean your math was off, but was it?
But yeah, Johnny was a divorcee. So I
Yeah,
guess this isn't the first time we've seen
a divorced person.
someone divorced, but I'm leaning towards your logic on the kids thing just because the kids still have to meet them. It just feels very complicated.
It is very complicated. But she didn't like his response though, because it actually brought her to tears, if I remember correctly.
He said he was okay with it, but it was a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
And
delayed
I
a lot to her.
and really from after this set of dates, I think a lot of his responses were delayed, never showed up, if at all.
You could tell he was really thinking. It reminded me of last season when Izzy heard about Johnny's situation and he kind of just like it
Mhm.
back, a lot. That's the same thing that happened here with Jimmy. Okay, we still on episode 1.
Oh
So we
Lord, we gotta keep going.
we haven't talked about this. Something about best friends.
I know that we once we get going, it's a wrap.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
next I had a meeting with or date with AD and Clay. And in this one
The nighttime date, right?
I believe
Okay.
so. So I said I think Clay is going to need a lot of validation and I hope he's able to find that in her. Not that that's a negative thing. Like a lot of us find that in our relationships.
Mhm.
And so I'm just whatever people think of him outside of this, maybe I guess he makes good money and he has the looks, he has the charisma. It seems like he needs someone to say, I see more of you than that. And so I think he's gonna need the words of affirmation.
I something he said, I don't know if it was day 1 or 2, but he said that he's used to getting the women that he wants, but not really being chosen by them. And so it sounds, I guess, as though he wants to be seen
I
for
kind of
more than
right.
this smooth, suave
uh,
security blanket as he described it persona. Uh
it's
yeah.
it's something about when people see you that way, you start to identify as that. And so I also think with Clay, he's gonna have to unlearn a lot of that if he's I don't think Clay is ready for marriage. And I saw it in this episode, but I I want to believe the best of him because I at this point like him, but I just
Mhm.
think there's a lot um that he needs to unlearn before a marriage. I could see him in a serious relationship, try to, doggy paddle your way through that before, before getting into the ocean, the ocean that is marriage. But this was the time when he asked her to kind of describe describe herself.
So what you look like?
Right. And was it me or this season where there are a lot of people tiptoeing on that line of you're not supposed to know what I look like and well, I'm gonna give you a little something.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. As we saw with Chelsea and, a
Especially.
few other people. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, he wants to know more about her physical appearance." What did he say? "Oh, like, I usually like petite lips with a little bit of butt."
Yeah. Which he described her. So like I was like, he'll be very not surprised, very happy with. That's not the word I wanted to go with.
I
Please, please.
I I wrote that while I think it was off-putting, I think he was very honest in that moment about, "Listen, if I don't like what I see
Yes.
when we have the reveal, this is not going to work." But I think the logic is flawed because she could describe herself as any type of way, or she could
Megan
have
Fox.
a yeah, she
Sorry.
Ooh, okay. She could think very highly of herself. She can believe that she's beautiful, describe herself in whatever type of way. And he thinks that, oh, okay, I feel comfortable with this, and it's way off. So I think he was being very honest, and the subsequent events had to humble him a bit to be like, oh, okay, that's not this process. I signed up for Love is Blind. I wrote also, why are you here if you're hung up with appearances? Also, I think it was Jimmy or was it Jeremy that said later on, like, oh, I don't even know why Clay is here.
I don't remember that.
Somebody said it. I can't remember who. It was one of the guys who was like, oh, well, I don't even know why he's here. Because like he said, he's a ladies' man.
Mhm.
He doesn't have an issue getting women. So why are you here?
You know what my biggest fear was after this conversation? So, Married at First Sight season 12 in Atlanta
Mm,
with that guy Chris and the girl Paige.
mm,
I was like, God, don't let this be a repeat because she's a
mhm.
darker skinned girl, and you have a guy who is like flashy, a little bit flashy, not as much as Chris was, but that was my biggest fear because I think she's stunning, but like, what is he gonna think? Because colorism exists. So,
There's a lot of men who sign up for these shows who have a very specific look that they're going for.
yeah.
So, hmm,
Okay. So, this is
okay.
the last thing I'll say about this episode. Whoever did the editing, give them an Emmy right now or whatever award they get because them on purpose not showing us Matthew's interactions with that other woman and then at the end dropping on that was good television.
I literally
That
wrote,
was great.
so Amber had a date with Matthew?
They did it on purpose, and I'm not mad at it. I was here for it. I'm like, what? Word
And
for bar for
let's show
bar.
Amber real quick.
Yes,
Yeah.
she looks good in that color as well. That's
Mhm.
you go get me a dress that color. Maybe
Mhm.
that's the secret to making it pop in a picture. But yes, I thought that was excellent TV. So bravo to whoever was on that editing team. You did well. And
Oh, one other thing. So I think in this episode, AD asked Matthew, is race and ethnicity important to you? He said that it's not.
but he comes from a town with he said 500 people.
Yeah, 600 people. He's a country boy.
Crazy.
He claims to not be bothered by it.
If he's not,
And I think they also talk about music in this episode.
she's
Oh,
black.
Yeah. So he knows at this point that she's a black woman. She knows he's a white man. But he said he wouldn't be bothered by it.
Yeah.
Mm,
Uh,
okay.
anyways, all right. So episode 2, look at us. We did
Finally.
40 minutes. Okay, I think that the
Oh,
rest of them are gonna go faster.
yes. Should.
Okay. So next episode, we're introduced to Jeremy. This is episode 2.
Yeah, let me pull him up real quick. You can go ahead
Yeah,
and
and
go.
while you're doing that, I'll say what my first impression was. I felt like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, he might need to grow up a little bit. He was giving a little too jovial for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he played too much. And
Mm.
Laura was the person who he met with, who he dated. Do you have
And in this episode, he mistook Laura for Sarah.
ah, and tried to play it off? I said he's clearly into Sarah Ann.
Clearly. And as we see later on, he has the hots for her.
You want to show? Do you have their pictures, Laura and
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Ann? Okay,
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
this is Laura. And I don't know, maybe we should start saying their age. We'll remember next time, but 34.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's Laura.
Mm-hmm. And then Sarah Ann. Where you at, girl? Yeah.
Oh, okay. A
Mm-hmm.
little print
Give,
and a slit.
give some thigh action.
Okay. But yeah, I thought the energy with him and Laura was cool. They both love super clean places. He has 2
Yeah.
robot vacuums. Like, okay, either your house is really sizable or you're just very, very, very clean. I don't know.
Does he have dogs? I wonder. That's
Oh,
what I thought. Like maybe he has pets and he has to,
let's see.
I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Okay. But then
yeah.
when Sarah Ann did come, he was really trying to see how he could create a life with her, I felt, and picture what their life could look like. So it definitely at this point seemed like Sarah Ann was the choice.
Yeah, I initially with Jeremy and Laura, I didn't get anything memorable.
Like sparks flying or anything.
Mm-mm. No, I didn't. But
I didn't with Sarah Ann either. I think later on they developed maybe sexual tension, but that was really it.
I wrote down that Sarah Ann talks a lot more.
And Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Yeah. But yeah, that was all I had on them.
Okay. We can go to Johnny and Amy. Girl, why my notes say Johnny and Ava? Was there even an Ava? Show? Oh, we're still working on the names. But so we're
Yeah.
back to Johnny and Ava. And he talked about how 2 weeks ago he would probably have written her off if she mentioned needing like something about being a caretaker.
Yeah. So she's potentially going to be a caretaker for her brother who has autism. And yeah.
That concerns me because you are today who you were 2 weeks ago if you're in this process. And when you get back to your life, you're going to revert probably to the person you were 2 weeks ago. So it concerns me that her being a caretaker would have put him off a couple of weeks ago. I don't think, to me, that doesn't scream longevity for their relationship, but it's just my opinion.
So I wrote that I think they're both still pretty young.
Hmm.
And I think his response was honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to have just met someone and they're potentially already in that role, I think would be a lot for many people. And so hopefully she was listening to that. Um, Other than that, everything seems to be okay at this point.
Again, they're not a couple that is the most exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we have AD confronting this whole Matthew situation.
Hmm.
What do you-
Well, if we go back to the first episode just really quick, whenever AD found out that Amber was vibing with Matthew, she didn't say anything.
She did it. How did you feel? I thought she was just in shock. Like,
She was, but didn't give too much more than that.
yeah.
So she sat with it. She was clearly bothered by it because it seems like he's trying to play them. But obviously they're dating multiple people. And this keeps coming up through the subsequent episodes where, okay, yeah, you're looking to find your person. You want to make sure they're into you 100%, but they also were dating other people. So, of course, the same things may continue to come up
Yes, but
to a point.
yes. You're not
She
about
about
to
to jump down my throat.
right. You're not about to tell everybody we could leave today. I'll ask your dad's hand in marriage. We don't have to. And why is he trying to take people out of the process? Like he's promising them everything, but it can't be in the process.
So he claims that he didn't say the same things to Amber to AD that he said to Amber, because I think they have the same first names.
Yes, Amber did.
Okay. Okay. So he claims to not have said the same thing, but he says he needs to make a decision tomorrow. And at that point, I'm like, girl, you should. If it were me, I would have been like, oh, I'm good.
And the way he tried to turn it back on her, talking about, well, you also have other but I'm not. I didn't come in with the script. You came in with 15 questions from the beginning. You knew exactly how you wanted things to go. You preyed on whoever you wanted to continue to have conversations with, and you're saying the same things to us.
And he was already talking marriage. Like, oh, well, what about your dad? And oh, well, I guess I won't need to ask, for your hand because of that situation. So he escalated things, I think, much quicker than
Yes.
it needed to, which had her thinking one thing. Because I think at this point, none of the other couples or connections that have been made have even proposed or talked about marriage. So he made things serious very quick in an attempt to get her to back out of the process with him, I think.
Yes.
If we believe it's not an act, but
Which it has. But so AD tells him how she's feeling. He tries to gaslight her. And then when she goes into her meeting with Clay, I don't know where the sense was that day for my good sis AD
because why did she tell him?
and of course he overreacted. Like the way he reacted was first of all, he didn't even remember who Matthew was.
Who?
It was like, Matthew? I don't even know. Matthew. So that
He
reaction
was shook.
was so genuine and hilarious to me. Oh man.
You better tell me, are you feeling me? You better tell me right now. You got me in a love triangle. I will say with him, I feel like what you see is what you get.
Very much so. And I need him to he says exactly how it comes up in his mind is how it comes out of his mouth.
He's like, my ego is effing with me right now. I need some reassurance.
Yeah. Why do you remember word for word what he said?
Because I wrote it down. I literally rewatched it. Ooh, he is shook.
People are gonna be like, y'all laugh too much in the comments. Sorry. Okay. But I thought he was being extremely sensitive in a situation where, of course, she's dating other people. But I think because he doesn't get vulnerable with a lot of people, he just couldn't fathom, oh, she's vulnerable with others as well.
He can't fathom competition as a ladies' man who always gets the women that he wants, but he says he's never chosen. He's thinking, okay, yeah, you're dating other people, but it ain't no way it's that one that's in the running with me.
Yeah, his arrogance was showing.
Oh, he was big mad about it. And I get it. Okay, I'm going to say what I was just going to say till later.
Okay. So, do you want to move to the next couple? We have Brittany and Kenneth. Kenneth is a middle school principal, at
Yeah.
P5 or something, which is so excellent. Great for him.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very young for this process, both of them though.
very young for this process. So yeah, that's Kenneth, middle school principal, and
Mhm.
then he meets Brittany, who is
Mhm.
an elementary teacher. I think she is.
Mhm. She's a teacher as well. I don't remember if it's elementary or
Yeah.
what, but yeah, that's her. Cute
Okay.
jumpsuit. I like
Yeah,
that.
it is a cute jumpsuit. Uh, so I will say she talks about the whole, I would rather be submissive thing. Then they connect on God and the death of their parents, which
Mhm.
was something. I think she said her dad, was it the alcoholism?
I thought that that was Jessica's dad.
It was. Okay. I don't know how her dad
Yeah.
died.
I know
Okay.
her mom shared the same birthday. Her mom was a twin. He also has twins on his side. So it's a high possibility that that could happen for them.
If they last, Vanessa Lachey is going to be like, oh, who's going to give us the first Love is Blind twins?
Right?
Reunion.
Um yeah, with these two I wrote they're very young. They seem to be mature in how they present. Um I don't know when she came in with the whole like, oh, I want to be submissive, I want to be led. I want some more time to pass. I don't know. Sometimes when those can be buzzwords to
I
me
don't
a
like
bit,
them leading with that
and he seemed to be pleased with it.
because they're both Christians, and you know how like
Yeah.
church. So I'm not surprised that they're both Christians. They're that young, and they're signed up for this process. It's making sense to me, and I just hope that if this is something that lasts, they're able to navigate the the maturity, like they're able to mature together. Because it
Mhm.
might not always seem as simple as it does now. So, but I
Yeah.
liked them. I really like Brittany. If she says, "Oh my God," one more time, and she's so like, "Oh my God," every time. But I love her energy, and I
Mm.
like Kenneth as well.
Yeah. I agree. Okay.
Okay. Jimmy and Chelsea and Jimmy and Jessica. So for Jimmy and
Okay.
Chelsea, I just had that they talked more about the divorce and he apologized for his reaction,
Delay.
his initial
Mhm.
reaction. Uh, but I wrote down at this point is where it starts to become hard to read him.
Mhm. He regresses.
Hmm.
Yep.
And then he talks to Jessica about she shared her childhood story, which is a lot. I think the first episode she only talked about how she moved around a lot.
Before you move on to Jimmy and Jessica, I think with Chelsea and Jimmy, this is a date where he is like asking her hints about how she looks and the whole Megan Fox thing because of the dark hair and the light eyes.
And why would you even bring that up if you know? I see what she means.
Right, but saying a woman who I think she's been deemed as like one of the sexiest people alive.
Yes,
Before y'all could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but
people
she's
mad.
a very attractive woman, mainstream. Why would you pick that woman? Because he seemed to bite onto it.
A lot.
He's like, "What? I got me a Megan."
And then the way she said Megan Fox was, what's that guy, Machine Kelly, his girlfriend? You know
Girl,
who Megan.
everybody saw Transformers that year. Come on
She's
now.
more. I haven't seen it, but I know her. Even the people who
Yeah,
don't see it know her. So it's like, why her? And why are you acting like you don't know her name? She's more famous than he is.
I will say, I think Chelsea is
You,
very smart and she knows what she's doing.
yep, yeah.
Sprinkling the breadcrumbs.
Hmm.
Yeah, she knows. I wrote she knows what she's doing by mentioning Megan Fox, and I wrote in this episode. I hope he's flexible, like, in terms of what he's looking for physically, not because she looks bad,
But
but I
she's
wouldn't say she looks like Megan Fox either.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she tried to say, "Oh, it's just because of the dark hair and the eyes." But girl, once you throw Megan Fox out there, like if I tell somebody I look like Kelly Rowland, there's no walking that back. There's no walking that
I was
back.
like, "Oh, she a baddie."
Exactly. So, okay.
Ooh. Okay,
I
now we could go on to Jessica and him.
yeah. So
Um,
she shared her childhood. I was very interested. I think she has a very
oh yeah, her childhood sounds
it was
like,
some
yeah, like it was a lot.
he seemed more into her, I put, than Chelsea. So this is why I really think the child thing just did it for him.
Because she opened up the date, I believe, crying about missing her daughter. So
Mm.
I think I don't know. I yeah. I
So I'm gonna move on if you're okay with that.
Mhm.
So they go into Chelsea and Trevor's date. Chelsea is obviously really interested in looks because then she tries to guess Trevor, like what Trevor looks like,
Mhm.
without thinking he's muscular and that he has a mullet, and he confirms it for her. I liked their vibe, but she needed a refresher on what show she signed up for because she was very much testing the boundaries of what this show is supposed to be about.
Because I think she wants to know.
And I get it, but
Mhm. This is not the show because what he describes to you could not be true anyway,
what?
so,
He does.
yeah. I mean, he didn't lie about it. He does have a mullet, so, okay.
Okay. So AD goes into this conversation. So I'm glad she recognized the red flags in both men.
Mhm.
She talks about how he's playing you and he's wrapping you up with his words. And then Clay yelling at her is unacceptable. I put now just make the right choices. That was my thing. Okay, girl, you know now, make the right choices.
Mm.
And so they went into the date with Matthew and her,
Mhm.
and he talks about, well, you know, Amber left, right? I guess that's about me. He wants to be the main character so badly, and he's just not it. Either you got it or you don't. You don't got
Yep.
it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love AD's responses though. She said, "Well, that's audacious of you." Like even in moments where she could go off on people, I love how she does it. It's similar to
Mhm.
Aaliyah last season, except Aaliyah
Mhm.
sometimes had the tears along with it. But I just appreciate seeing people share exactly what's on their heart without tearing other people down or being mean about it. Uh, Matthew talks about America's rooting for him, which we are not. If there was any confusion about that, I don't think not this America. Maybe,
Mm-mm.
but yeah,
Yeah, she said, "You sound like you're devastated because of Amber." I like how she just jumped straight to the point.
because Amber left. He's like, well, I heard
Mhm.
somebody on national TV. I'm pretty sure Amber left and got her a new boo. It's trust me, she dated you. She hasn't even seen what you look like. I doubt that you crushed her that bad, sir.
What did he say? I don't like the way you sound today." She didn't sound any different than any other day.
He didn't like that his words weren't working on her. He wants to be a
Mm-mm.
heartbreaker, and she's not letting
Mhm.
him break her heart.
Yeah, and ultimately, he knew the day before that AD wasn't going to be his pick, and then he says he's done and he's going to find Amber.
I hope they don't put him on the reunion. And I hope no podcast reach out to him to give him an interview either. He wants it too much. That's actually all that I have for episode 2.
Yep,
Okay,
done.
look at this. Moving right along. Okay.
Mhm.
Episode 3. Oh, you know what we
Mm.
missed?
What? What did we
Uh,
miss?
Johnny proposed to Amy in the last episode.
Oh, yeah, he did. I wrote it down, and she said yes.
All right. So in this episode, they meet up at the beginning. He
Yeah.
definitely he definitely thought she was gorgeous, and she is.
They both seem elated with each other's looks and
I don't think she was as elated with his looks. Remember she said that her dad or someone said that they saw her kids and they had blonde hair, but she usually goes for dark hair guys.
yeah, she said someone a ethnic man. That's how she described it.
But he's a
Yeah, but
cute
she gave him compliments. She said, "I love your hair." She said, "I like your eyes." They kissed a lot.
and not that
Say
ethnic
it.
is a sound, but nothing about him would have been like, oh, ethnic to me.
No, she said she would usually go for an ethnic
Oh,
guy.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool.
But yeah, so they met, and only time will tell if she's actually attracted to him, and he's very smitten with her. So,
All right, so let's go
mhm.
back to AD and Clay. I
Mhm.
feel like Clay was losing it a little bit. And I think
Oh, 1,000%.
being in this bubble did it to him. If this were Clay on the outside, he probably would have gone on Tinder to swipe and find somebody to get him. But this process really makes him sit in his feelings. Moments like this make me want to root for Clay for real. Like I see him as a playboy, but moments like this make me want to believe him when he says, I'm looking for something deeper. I'm looking for something more. I'm willing to be better. But I'm also aware, again, that he's in this bubble.
I'm not sold on Clay.
I
I am getting your ego is bruised. You're in competition mode.
know.
Part of that could be, oh, I really want to win my person at the end of this, and I feel like she's it. But I also think I could see him reacting by just putting a bit of fire underneath him
Hmm.
to put his best foot forward.
He
At
definitely,
this point, that's what I'm thinking.
okay.
Yeah.
I said, I wonder if this process is enough time for him to shed his like toxic masculinity. I don't think it is. I
Mm,
think he's genuine, but I think he's sensitive and insecure about himself. Like, he knows he's good looking. He knows he does well financially, it seems. But
mm,
I think he has issues seeing himself as enough outside of that. Maybe he thinks that's all he offers. And so I think this process is a good confidence builder for him because someone's liking him without seeing his looks.
mhm. Yeah, he said that he is sensitive. Yeah.
I like AD for him. Like if he were my brother, I would
Mm.
like someone like AD for him. Again, I just don't know that I would want him for her. He
Would
needs to show some growth.
Yeah, would it get tiring always having to validate, uplift,
Yeah.
there's some growth that needs to happen independently so that maybe they can meet more on equal footing.
The therapy he's been avoiding, I want him to go. I'm rooting for him, even though I know that that's gonna come back to haunt me. I know he's gonna do something crazy in this season. I just feel it. It's gonna happen. But hopefully he gets his act together after the season because I want positive things for him.
Yeah. But AD, what did she say? She said, okay, I didn't take well to being yelled at. Didn't like the whole the appearance talk. But she says she wants to move forward.
And I get it because the way he came in was very much I apologize. I didn't like how he apologized. He said a lot of, if I did do that, I'm sorry. So I think he's learning about apologizing too, which he learned
Mm.
a little bit too many things for my liking right now. But he came in very humbled.
Mhm.
And so it makes it seem like when there's someone who is willing to accept their faults and I don't want to say fall on the sword, but they're very much willing to say, okay, I understand that something I did interrupted the connection we had. You can work with someone like that. Nobody's going to
Mhm.
be perfect, but you can work with someone who's willing to admit and change.
I could get with that. Yeah. He did come in humble and
Yeah,
realize he was wrong
yeah.
because it's called Love is Blind,
I like
not
them.
Love is Do You Have a Big Booty?
I like them. They seem like they'd be a fun couple. If he can work out the things he needs to work out.
And is his ladies man days really behind him?
He's 30.
Because it seems like he also saw a lot of validation in that as well, being able to get the different women. And what
Yeah.
did she say? Oh, you're a guy I would date in my past and get hurt by.
Yeah.
So
I need to see him in a relationship first. All right.
okay.
Next, I have Kenneth and Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
This was the conversation where they talked about where she asked him his ethnicity. And she goes, "Oh, random. Girl, how you gonna do oh random at the beginning of the date? You just sat down. This is not random. You have been thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it." So she
Mm-hmm.
asked him, she said, "I'm not trying to figure out your looks. But
Are you black?
right." And he said that he is. They both said that they were okay with that and moved on from it. Hey,
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But also, these people just don't care this season. They're asking about height, they're asking about mullets, they're asking about race and muscles. Is love
Yeah.
blind or what?
Mm-mm. They're gonna have to put more stipulations in place about what questions they can ask,
Both of them are waiting until marriage,
which
which
I was glad that they talked about up front. We're on the same page about it. Yep.
also they're about to get married in like what 4 weeks. So
Mhm.
I have to wait much longer if they decide to choose each other. But I'm glad they talked about it. And I think if you're a person who's doing that, you should find someone who's also doing that
Mhm.
so that there's no issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was all I had on them, and he proposes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in that session, or either the
It was
next one
it
they
was the
have.
next one. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
but that's
sweet.
all I wrote.
And for the proposal, she looked really good in her green dress.
Mhm.
Okay. So we can stop talking about them. Laura
Mhm.
and Jeremy.
Yeah.
It seemed like Laura was leading a lot of the conversations at this point, and he was just following along or responding. But
Mhm.
then they started talking about family stuff, and that changed my mind a bit. So he talked
Yeah.
what he wants in a biological from his biological family, what he wants to recreate
Build.
his
Mhm.
family. Yeah. So, and then he said she was his number one. Like, oh, that's news.
Yeah, that is news. And I don't know, Laura and Sarah Ann are very different to me.
Huh.
That's what I wrote. They're very different. I got from Sarah that she talks a lot.
Mhm.
We could jump to their date because I didn't have
I
anything else
felt
with
fine
him
enough.
with Jeremy and Laura. But she talks a lot about her Instagram followers and
Botox.
Botox, and she's, I don't know. I just get very different vibes from them. And I'm like, huh, they're just very different. I don't know.
I think she maybe made herself seem superficial. Not that she is, but I think she
Mm.
made herself seem superficial with all the Botox talk and all the Instagram followers. But if that's her, that's her.
Yeah,
She
she's like, "Oh, I only have 13,000 TikTok followers." He's like, "Only."
Right. But she has to show up as herself. Why would she show up as anybody else? She's trying to find her person. So why put up a
Mhm.
front? If you do the Botox, girl, do the Botox and talk about it. If you have the followers and talk about it.
Yeah, so he's not trying to change you on the back end, but I just wrote that I think the vibe I get from Laura and Sarah Ann are very different, and so I wonder what's drawing him more to one versus the other. So
She talks about her being more conservative and also wanting someone
mhm.
who is, which he didn't seem to be conservative. So that was a
Mm-mm.
clash. I think political ideology is a huge deal breaker for
Mhm.
people. But I wonder what made him talk about taking Sarah Ann to the cemetery, but not Laura. If she was his number
Mhm.
one, maybe he did and they didn't show it. But that kind of confused me a bit.
Yeah, because he said like, "Oh, I don't share this with everyone."
Hmm.
This, even people close to me don't know that I do this. That seemed to be a very, um, intimate moment. And I don't know if I wonder if it was in response to something she shared. I don't know.
Hmm.
We'll
All
see.
right. I don't have too much else on this episode, but I want to end with the Jessica and Jimmy then Chelsea and Jimmy, and then Chelsea and
Mhm.
Trevor. So this whole, I guess, love square.
Yeah.
Okay, so first I have Jessica and Jimmy
Mhm.
on the date with the bland looking spaghetti.
Ooh.
So he asked her about social media.
And
Well,
I'm gonna show this love square
yeah.
one more time just so people know. So we got Jessica, and you
Yeah.
can keep talking.
Oh, I don't have. Okay.
Oh, Chelsea, it's okay.
Chelsea, yes.
And then we got Jimmy,
And Jimmy's the one they're both talking to.
and then we got Trevor.
Trevor, who is talking to Chelsea.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So she asked him about the social media. Who do you follow? Because she doesn't want him to be following half naked women. What did you think of that? Her bringing it up.
I thought it was very random.
Also too, kind of.
Yeah, I'm like, where did this come from?
Not her wanting it or not wanting it. Because I think if you ask most people, they would say, "Oh yeah, I would prefer my partners not
Mhm.
looking
And
at." But
I thought when she was asking about who do you follow, I was thinking it's more about what type of content do you consume? Who are you interested in? Not that specific. So something must have happened to where it was an issue, a big issue in a previous relationship for her to bring it up.
that's what she
Um,
said. So with it being a big issue in the past, she brought it up here. I don't know. I think I want her to heal from that a little bit. Is that too much to ask?
I just think it's a very specific question.
I don't know that I would have. But if she
I wouldn't
wants,
have brought it up, but
I probably wouldn't have either.
mm. Also, say he was following thirst trap type of content. You think he would tell you in the pods? I don't
Okay, I will say Jessica was giving me Meredith Grey vibes. I know you don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but for the people who do, there's this episode where she's pretty much asking the guy to pick her. She's like, "Pick me."
I did watch a little bit of Grey's Anatomy. Don't shade
Oh,
me like that.
I mean, it's all like 25 seasons now, so
I
I
mean,
don't.
I don't watch anymore, but I watched like the first 8 or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that you're familiar with the pick me,
Mhm.
choose me, love me moment.
Mhm.
That's what I was getting from Jessica. It did feel like she was putting her hat in the ring. Like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
really interested. And I'm not mad at it, but at this point, especially when he wasn't expressing as much as she was, I didn't like that. I'm okay with expressing if there's reciprocity when you're a woman, call me old fashioned, but
Mhm.
there just was not any reciprocity there. And so it felt like she was in a battle.
And she said specifically, "You're my first round draft pick."
Mhm.
Also, in this episode is where we get into him start to talk about his lack of communication, not being able to express himself. I just don't have the words. So I agree with what you said about how she just kind of threw herself out there and he wasn't giving
Mhm.
her much of anything. But I also think he was playing on the fact of him having these issues with communicating and, oh, this is just so much. He don't have the words. And so I think it put her in a position of wanting to maybe give him grace for not knowing how to express himself, which I think as the audience, we can call BS on it. But I think for her, especially something she said later on, well, oh, well, you just, he's just not the best communicator, or I just have to give him time. And yeah, I think she was misled a bit.
This was the episode where I said, Jimmy, you don't have to leave with either of them because he seemed so unsure.
Hmm.
You can walk out of here a single person. You don't have to continue this experiment at 27 years old. And I wish he would
Mm.
have just told both of them, "Hey, I'm not interested." But
Because he kept saying, I want to be 1,000%. I want to be 1,000%. Well, you're on the wrong show for 1,000%.
because you could be 1,000% today and tomorrow not be.
That and you haven't seen this person. You really don't know them. So how could you be 1,000% after a few days before a proposal?
Mhm.
You wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if I were Chelsea, so just moving to him and
Mhm.
his conversation with Chelsea, I I wonder why Chelsea told him about the whole Jessica thing.
because she know what she doing. She did that on purpose.
Very strategic.
Very Chelsea said, "I'm come in and give y'all the vibes, the positive energy.
I'm leaving
Tell
here
you,
with some.
yeah, tell you I look like Megan Fox. Sprinkle a little something in your ear that could be perceived as negative or not about the woman I know I'm in competition with."
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this was when I realized, okay, Jimmy is her first choice because it was in this episode, I believe, that Trevor told her that he loved her,
Mm-hmm. You're
but
right.
she didn't say it back.
No, she did not.
And so this episode made it clear for me that okay, she has a clear cut number one, and that is Jimmy. And she doesn't want to lead Trevor on because even after Trevor said, I love you, she went back to the girls' dorm and she said, oh, she was crying. She said, I'm so used to guys being mean to me. And that just told me everything I needed to know. She wanted the one who was less available emotionally, the one who wasn't expressing himself as much, and the one who was, she felt like, oh, I shouldn't give him a chance. Like she was falling back into old patterns that she has before, it seemed.
And because Jimmy wasn't giving her that much
Or
either.
anything.
So, um,
Nothing.
yeah, he wasn't giving her nothing. In my opinion, I will say I didn't think that he was her number one, but I definitely knew she wasn't all in on Trevor.
And that's the thing. I pick people who pick you. Not to say you have to settle. So if Trevor just wasn't her cup of tea, he wasn't her cup of tea. But also, Chelsea, you don't have to leave here with somebody. Pick people who pick you back.
The way she's moving though, kudos to her. She Mhm.
This is not a game. This is your life, girl.
Oh,
Okay, that's
okay.
all I have for episode 3. I think
Mhm.
we're at like an hour and some change in. We're doing good. We're not talking
Mhm.
forever. Okay. Episode 4, Sarah Ann and Jeremy, they talk about sex. They don't really have that emotional connection. And she was doing the painting activity, but he was not. Those are the notes I wrote on them.
I wrote, is there more to them? I think he's turned on by her and
Yes.
maybe some of the conversations that they've had. I wrote, what else is there? Nothing. Yep.
So she says she feels free and fun with him and that he's the only one that makes her feel that way. And he actually mentioned that he feels more of the sexual tension and less of a mental connection.
He did.
He was very upfront about
Mhm.
that, and I appreciated it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then he met with Laura, and I felt like he was more into Laura connection wise. And
Mhm. I think in this episode, especially when he let Sarah Ann know that I'm not really quite there. Like I'm more there physically, which interestingly enough, you haven't seen her, but in this episode, I wrote, I think he sees more of a life he could build with Laura.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sarah
So,
and talked a good game, you know?
mhm.
So to be able to get him physically interested in her without the physical,
And in his meeting or date with Laura, she talked about, oh, I wrote this pros and cons list. There's more pros than cons. I wrote that I think Laura is opening up more in terms of her emotions, at least in this date, compared to Sarah Ann.
yeah,
Sarah Ann felt still a bit more surface level.
very much so. All right.
So, but yeah.
Moving on to AD and Clay. All day and
Oh,
oh Clay. Oh Clay.
I guess we always have to have at least two goofballs
Um,
to keep it interesting.
all right. So he said, this man came with the Bible. And that's where I was like, you better not be another Chris from Married at First Sight Atlanta. Because he was all about God and the preacher and the Bible and and
Lord have mercy. He
then
said that he's grown. And he quoted a very I didn't read the Bible
Proverbs
like that.
3.
Yeah, I'm like the one
I
that everybody know.
the most pop okay, not the most popular. It is a good
It
verse.
is.
But okay. Anyways, so he admitted that he shot himself in the foot when he said the "tell me how you look" thing. I'm really glad she held her ground with that. A lot of the things he said
Mhm.
were things that she does for him. And so whenever that happens, my first thought is, okay, are you willing to reciprocate? Are you willing to be there for that person and do those things for her as well? So that would be my biggest concern.
And I also wrote, okay, okay, AD, why is Clay your person? I have not seen up until this point where he would be meeting her needs, her wants, her desires. Um,
That
he
part.
he yearns for validation, but what do you need?
Hmm.
Why is he the one? Other than y'all have a good vibe.
Yes.
Why him? And also AD, you don't have to leave with anyone. So
Exactly.
yeah.
That's similar to what I put down. I said AD is very much a light in this whole process. She's been
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable to watch. And it seems like, she gets along with the people around her. So his speech was good. He talked about them being a team and that he's not going to leave her. He talked about how he's serious about her. Uh yeah, because he talks a lot about what she does for him, I think he sees the value in her. And I appreciate, because I think you can't convince someone of your value. They either see it or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of the issue that happens in, relationships, not just in our day and time, but even before.
Mm-hmm.
Someone doesn't already see your value, there's nothing you can do or say to prove it to them. So I do appreciate that he sees the things that make her valuable and that he's saying, I want to give you the time of your life. You deserve it. I want to give that to you. I appreciated that.
Okay.
You
I hope
like, I don't care for it.
I don't want to jump to when they meet,
Mm,
but
mhm,
the same vibe that we're getting as far as what she's going to do for him,
mhm.
I feel like I don't know if that energy will be reciprocated. So I hope that he's willing to actually put the work in. So he proposes.
Yeah.
Can we jump to their reveal?
Dang, Miosha. I got a whole lot of episode before there, but sure.
Okay.
No, no, no. Let's jump to their reveal.
So they walk up. You can tell they're both nervous.
Paint the picture.
She says, "Oh, he's so cute."
Mhm.
Still no compliments from him. He looks at her. Oh, he's enamored
Mhm.
with the body.
Yes.
They kiss. Still no compliments to her. Walks her over, grabbing up all on her. She does a twirl, obviously body snatched. She looks amazing.
Yes.
Um, he finally says, "Oh, he's impressed with her."
Mhm.
Still know she's pretty. Then, like, right before they leave, he's like, "Oh, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's the whole package." But throughout that whole interaction, he asked her about 2 or 3 times, "So, baby, what do you think about me?"
Mhm.
The compliments were too delayed for me.
I
It
feel
was too focused on her body.
Mhm.
I ain't like it.
I agree with you. So I said I don't think he liked how she looked. I don't think she was what he was expecting. And I hope that
Mm.
that's not going to be a problem because he didn't compliment her looks. He complimented her lips and he clearly liked her body. Who wouldn't?
I felt the tension, like, the chemistry, all of that was there. Him laying on her bosom,
I think
but
it's like he had to get used to it.
yeah,
And I don't love that for a first time.
Mm-mm. He was focused to me just too much on her body and not I wanted to hear like, "Wow, you're so beautiful."
Mhm.
And I didn't like how she twirled, she did this and that. He still didn't the compliments were too delayed for me.
Yes. S At the end, he said, "We're gonna have some beautiful dark babies. She has a beautiful face." And that was at the end.
It was. You right.
So I'm like, okay, I hope he's not trying to convince himself
Or
because
trying to clean it up.
we're trying to clean it up. So I wasn't in love with their first reaction, but I think he likes her. He finds
Mhm.
comfort in her, clearly. Well,
And she was complimenting him.
too much. I don't want to be that girl who's like, don't compliment men because I believe in that. However,
It
comma,
was not balanced. She was complimenting him. He was still asking her, "Well, what do you think about me, baby? What do you think about me, baby?" In
it's a baby person.
minutes in, you're just saying, "Oh, I'm impressed by her."
What does that even mean? Like you're someone who I mean, I guess he's someone she's trying to impress, but it creates this power dynamic of I'm the one who needs to be impressed by her. But then also he kept asking what she thought about him. So maybe I don't know. It
It
was weird.
the word impressed, I think of it in the context of, "Oh, I interviewed, so I was impressed by the interview."
Transactional. It's very transactional.
I wanted to hear, "Wow, you're so beautiful."
Anyway,
Clay.
Miosha not playing with you, Clay. Okay. Can we go to all the other
Mhm,
couples that was
mhm.
all right. I mean, I don't have much on this couple, but Ken and Brittany also met at the beginning of this
They
episode.
did.
I like how he wore his hair for their
Thank you for pulling it back. Thank
was
you.
so nice.
Yeah.
I like that hairstyle on him. I like his hair in general, but I think in the pod because it was dangling in
Oh,
his
yeah, it was in his eyes. I'm just like, "Move the hair out of here." Kinda like how yours are right now, but yours is cute.
and it's not in my eye.
It's not in your
It's
eye.
not like I'm trying to it's just like this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think next we have Trevor and Chelsea. They gave each other gifts. Was it the dog thing?
Yeah, Trevor and Chelsea, it was the wristband thing, it was the rock, the Braille rock,
Okay.
and it
That's
was
all I
one
have.
more thing. I can't remember the last thing.
The thing that vibrates. No,
Oh,
that
the
was the
wrist.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was the first thing. Okay. So then Jimmy and Jessica, and I of course I put down it just feels like she's pursuing him.
That
And
it does.
I think she said something like, I'm happy and lucky. No, she wrote him a letter, right?
So she said she gave him the letter,
Yes.
a letter she had written previous for her future husband. And what
Yeah.
did he give? Nothing.
And he said, I'm happy and lucky I'm the man who gets to read this. I don't know if I can tell you what you want to hear right now.
Yep.
Mm.
She said, "Well, I'm not gonna chase you.
But
I'm the prize."
she said it a little too late. You know, she said it after she
Mhm.
had chased him a little too much for me. But I thought it was about time for her to say that because she had been chasing this whole time. And to be
Yeah.
left wondering is not a good place to be.
Yeah. And if you really were on that energy, you wouldn't have met with him again.
That's the thing. Okay. He said he's drawn to people who let him lead and let him decide, AKA, let me string you along. And when
Mhm.
I decide to go forward with you or I decide to drop you, that's when a decision is made. And I didn't like that. I said, I don't think Jimmy's person is here. I just don't. You just don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's really all in on either one of them, but,
Yeah. Okay. And then with Jimmy and Chelsea, I was surprised that Chelsea was still meeting with him when I watched the episode.
Mm.
And yeah, so I said maybe Trevor was being so nice, but that's not what she's used to. So she's tempted to chase the guy who's like elusive. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. In this meeting, and I hope I didn't jump ahead of my note. Is this where he told her he loved her?
No, so Trevor had already said it, but it is this episode
Okay,
when I think Jimmy tells Chelsea.
right. That he loved her.
Yes.
Yeah, and she falls off the couch.
But when Trevor said it, it was like, oh, like she cried because she was about to break that man's heart. That's the only reason she cried. Uh,
Mm-mm.
and
What
I
did she?
think she was shocked because he had held his card so close. That was the first time it was like a drop of water in a desert because he had been so silent and hadn't given her anything. He drops this little nugget of I love you. And she was just like, oh, I've been dying of thirst. I wanted it. And now
Mm-hmm.
she's happy.
But
Uh,
she didn't say it in return.
she didn't. And she said, I'm gonna say she does know what she's doing.
You
She's
know what she
playing the
doing.
game. She is
Mm-hmm.
playing the game. I don't know if I like it though. It never works. When they come in playing a game, it never works. Like,
Well, she said it should be a good feeling, but I'm torn.
hmm
I mean, she's being honest.
so
So
she goes to the girls' quarters and I need people to choose silence more often. So she tells Laura, and then as soon as she leaves, here goes Laura to Jessica, babe.
get your stuff and leave.
I'm telling you. And so of course Jessica's like, girl, if you're gonna tell me something. Like, don't
Don't tell it. You got to tell it all.
right. If I'm gonna tell it, then I gotta tell it all. And you can't come to me and just drop pieces of, yeah, just pack your stuff and leave. And who knows if Jessica wants to leave. Laura, and I'm doing this based on what she said later on, but she's the type of person who's like, well, let me leave before I get left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she was projecting onto Jessica. But Jessica wanted to stay, child. Jessica's like,
Yeah. I
until
mean,
I have my day in court.
and I get it. I think Laura thought in her head she was doing Jessica a solid, but imagine if you're Jessica and you just saw Laura over there sitting with Chelsea. How do you know you can even believe what
Trust
she's
her.
saying? You don't really know her.
Yeah.
And so she may think, oh, is this a setup? Are you being two-faced?
Yeah.
What's going on here? But I don't know. Part of me, I don't know. If it were me in Jessica's shoes, especially since she's starting to come across as a bit desperate, I would have appreciated the heads up. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, bye.
But no, she came ready for a fight. Even the
Hmm.
way she was sitting, she wore her best heels, her
She
tight
looked
dress,
good.
as if he could see her. But it don't matter, girl, because we saw you and you look good. So he was like, it's not fair to you. He tried to give her some BS, and she was not here with it. One thing, okay, two things actually.
Mhm.
One, Jimmy needs to be a grown man. Once you've made your decision, you've made your decision. Stand 10 toes down in it. Don't beat around the bush. We saw how Jeremy did it later on. That's how
Mhm.
it's done because y'all are here to weed people out until you find your person. So I didn't appreciate that with him. I also didn't agree with Jessica saying that he ruined this opportunity for her because how?
I think she was big mad at the fact that after she left their meeting, it seemed as though he was still so torn and on the fence, only to go right into the next date until Chelsea he loved her.
But you
Which I don't think he ruined it for her. I think it's a part of the process. I just think in her mind, you knew that the last time you sat down with me, but the way he would portray it is as though he didn't know until how bad the date went. And
mhm,
that's when he realized. But either way, I don't think he ruined the process for her. It's not his fault that you were the only connection
that he was.
that
And was he though? Because so we see Chelsea was talking to Trevor up until even after that I love you that Jimmy dropped. So it's like you're there to I guess play a game a little bit, but
mhm.
nobody told you to put all your eggs in the Jimmy basket.
And if that was the only basket that you clicked with, then
have to
you
be
can't be upset with him that he clicked with another person.
exactly.
But I'm just gonna say the child thing I think didn't work in Jessica's favor. And I think for Chelsea, her dropping that Megan Fox nugget
Hurts.
worked in her favor. Because what
Oh,
did
okay. Okay, I forget what episode we're on, but yes.
oh, what did Jessica say? Something about
Real
how
life,
wait until you see
you're gonna choke,
you're gonna you're gonna need an EpiPen.
girl.
She really thought that one through.
And she was like, I got an analogy for his.
He was just sitting there like,
Waiting for his Megan Fox child. But that's the end of this episode.
mm-hmm,
Do you want to quickly go over like the meetings from episode 5, and then we'll do the honey.
mm-hmm, and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
Whew, it's almost 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Jimmy and Chelsea, he asked for her hand in marriage. She said yes, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
she said yes to him before going to before going to break up with Trevor.
Trevor, yeah.
He said thanks for being Jimmy said thanks for being the one who went at my pace. I never
I think he felt like he was being pushed by Jessica.
Mhm.
Yeah, being nudged along, which I don't necessarily agree with, but
That's just, I would see that coming as a red flag because so you about to be thinking everything's on your time. Can we find our pace? I don't know.
hmm,
I probably am thinking too much into it. But then with Trevor and Chelsea. So I will say in the beginning, I know I mentioned, oh, is Trevor real? Is he really like this? I think he is a sweetheart at the
I
end
do
of it
too.
all.
Yeah,
He was very, very sweet with how he handled this. And, he asked her why. He asked if she had said yes. He said, I had a nice speech for you too. And
yeah.
he goes, it's okay. That's life. But I
Mm-hmm.
think he was genuine. He wasn't putting on. He was,
Mm-mm. He really wanted her. And what did he say? Why would you go for the guy who you could have been his first or second pick? You didn't know, but you
sure.
had a for sure yes from me.
Even in his private interview, his diary cam, whatever, he said she was the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
That okay, Trevor, you won me over with your mullet and your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I
so
think
lost.
I think he would have been maybe the safe choice, as they say. I don't know, but I think he would have been a good choice for her.
Oh, why don't people want the safe choice? The safe choice is a good choice. Y'all don't want to be
No, they choose violence every time.
safe. Okay. And then Jeremy with Sarah Ann. So this was, I think, the best breakup. He was extremely direct. He was respectful. And
Mm.
that's how he said, my other connection is the one I have to move forward with.
Yep, straight to the point. It ain't you, boo boo.
I said, ask me, Yosha, would you ask what was the determining factor? Like, would you want to know?
I would if I was in the dating scene.
Hmm,
And yeah, even if I had dated someone for 6 months, I want to know, okay,
really?
yeah, because that's a whole separate discussion. I mean, no one's perfect.
Episode on that.
Yeah, like what are your thoughts? What's the exit interview? Like it depends on how much respect I have for that person too. But I could get her going through this process and wanting to know, okay, was there something about me, something that I said? It's up to you from there how serious you want to take the feedback. So
Interesting. Okay, fair.
yeah.
But what she said to Laura before she left, I'll have my moment. I said, okay, that's a little cryptic. Okay, girl, we'll see.
Mm,
I hope you're not about to stir up drama when you. I think when people leave from the pods, they need to leave from the
the
recording.
show. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Is
I agree.
this about love and the relationship, or is it about? It's about drama. I don't know. Okay,
Mm.
but anyway, Laura and Jeremy. I don't know. I had a major concern about whether Jeremy and Laura would find each other attractive. Was I the only one who thought that?
Yeah.
I just don't
She
think them together.
she claimed to not care. Something that she said when she walked out, she said, "Look at your face. You're handsome." I wrote down it's awkward a bit, the energy of these two. Um And what did he say when he sat down? I don't know. He's like, "Yeah, I got." She's like, "Oh, your hands are so huge." He's like, "Yeah, I got big hands and big feet." I wrote Jeremy might be a little hot in the pants. I don't know.
A little. Okay, so
Mm,
that was their review. And then the last thing to talk about with the meetups is Jimmy and Chelsea's reveal. So before they even met, he had the slip of the tongue about he said, "Yeah, Jessica is someone I can always talk to." I mean, Chelsea is someone
mm,
I can always, and they know they were shady for leaving that in there, but they did
mm.
because it's probably going to come up later. Okay. I hate, if y'all couldn't tell, when the woman gives the man so many more compliments on their looks, and Chelsea did just that. It reminded me of the North Carolina Married at First Sight when that girl Amber was with the tall basketball guy. And she's
Oh,
like, I find
yeah.
him so hot. And he was just like, okay,
He
girl,
gave nothing.
nothing the whole season. But yeah, I felt the disparity here.
Definitely a disparity, and I wrote, I wonder, 1, is he attracted to her? 2, was he taken aback that she doesn't look like Megan Fox? Um, and is he really all in? Because it's something he said later on.
Not at all. What did he say?
He said something like, I didn't know if I was gonna be here. I was gonna leave.
Yeah, I thought about leaving this
I
morning.
thought about leaving this morning." And she was just like, "Huh?"
What is
He's
that?
like, "Oh, baby, but you the reason I'm here."
Why would you even say that though? You know? He's a terrible liar. So she goes, I love you with my whole heart. And his response, good. I needed to hear that. What? Good. I needed to hear that. Not, I love you with my whole heart. And yeah, I think he's a terrible liar. And he commented on the Megan Fox thing. He said, she lied to me and said she looked like Megan Fox. But she was so giddy. I had secondhand embarrassment. I did. And we'll see how this goes on the honeymoon. Um,
Whew. Thank y'all for rocking with us. We know it's a long one.
it is, but please comment and let us know what you guys thought because we will be watching the comments and commenting
Mhm.
back. Let us know what things we missed that you guys saw, and we will come back. We might talk about some of those in the next episode that we
Mhm.
produced on the honeymoon
Mhm.
so far. So, all right,
Yeah.
we'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye.
Bye.